Hello and welcome to Learning with Bob. Today's lesson is going to be CSS Scripts or Cascading Style Sheet Scripts. We're going to learn some basics of how to use CSS coding. So let's start. First, let's look at what we have going on here. Here is our sample website. And you can see Learning is Fun is our sample website. I've set up a logo. It's fairly large. I've set up my menu here in the middle. It's center in the menu. I've got my title displaying. I'm not sure I want that. And I've set up a top header section. So let's start by first, let's see if we can decrease the size of the logo. So first thing we want to do is we're going to come down to our QO'd options and we're going to go to the general section. Scrolling down, we find our custom code section of this general heading section. The custom code is where we are going to put all of our custom CSS statements. So I'm going to make sure that it gets right to the top, and you can position your cursor over the bottom right hand corner and you can drag it down, and I do this so that I have a bigger screen so I can see. Now I'm going to just do a label. Remember, now anything that you don't want to be seen in your code, you have to preface with a backslash and the asterisk code. Then you can put in instructions. This is my CSS script lesson. And we'll close that with an asterisk and a backslash as well. Now that won't be seen, that's just for us to see. So let's put in our first command. Now we want to do what? We want to decrease the logo size. Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to find out what the class is to put into your CSS script. So I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do that. Let's go back here. Here is our website that we're looking at. This is what we want to shrink. So we're going to right click with the mouse on the image and we're going to come down to the bottom where it says inspect. We're going to click on that. As you can see on the left here, it gives us, now I'm going to open the size of this. So now I'm going to raise it up so I can censor this. And you can see highlighted is what is the image that we want to shrink. And you can see that it has a class of mobile here. But let's go up and see what the overriding class is for that. If we look up, we can see that in that division, it has a number of pictures because remember we put in a logo for our mobile and one for our regular logo and one for our sticky and all those other and one for dark and light and all of those. We don't care about that. We want to take the general Q logo and we want to change that. So this is our class. If you want, you can just simply highlight that and double click on it and then right click and copy that. And that's a fast, easy way to get back here. So now we're back, coming back to our QO'd options. We now have our class name. So we're going to put a dot and Control V will let me put in that class. And now I'm going to put the brackets in that are required for a CSS statement. Now, I don't know why my mouse is, why is my mouse doing, I have no idea why. Oh, it must be something to do with the program. Okay, it's driving me crazy, but anyway. So now we have our basic statement. So we want to change this. There's a couple of statements, a number of ways to do that. You can do a CSS statement using the the scale command if you want. But I'm going to teach you an attribute, a CSS attribute that I find extremely helpful. And this is how you code it in. You type in transform with a colon, space, then you put in matrix, followed by the bracket. That's not the same bracket that you put in for the CSS code. So the way the transform property works is there are 6 values, and these 6 values alter the 6 attributes of the item you're trying to change. The first is the XY axis, or the x-axis size. The second is a skewing. You can find out these by Googling the transform matrix CSS. If you do a Google, you'll find there's a CSS school that has a great tutorial on this. I'll see if I can find a link for it. So I'm just going to fill in the 6 attributes now. So 0, and put that in. So basically now I have my 6 attributes, and the way they work is the first character governs the size, the second governs the skewing, I believe it's back and forth, and the third is skewing right and left. The fourth is the Y sizing character to size it up and down the Y axis. The first one is the X axis, the second one is the Y axis. The fifth character moves the particular item left or right on the X axis, and the final character moves it up or down on the Y axis. So in this case, we're wanting to change the size. So we're going to, 0 is its standard. We're going to make it half the size. So we have to put in 0.5, because 0.5 is half of 1. So, and we have to do that for the y-axis as well. So we're going to put in 0.5 there. Now that command, once we hit save, should take our logo and should shrink it down. Let's take a look and see. Wow, look at that, it did. So that shrunk our logo. So let's say we want to use CSS scripting to move that logo over here to the left. So let's see, that would be this one right here. And I'm going to use a negative command because using negative takes it to the negative of the axis. So we're going to say, 200 pixels. I put my comma back in. Now let me save that and we'll see if it's moved it over. Sometimes if it doesn't move it, it's because it's bumping up against some other aspect that the theme will not let you move. So let's resize this and see if it will allow me to move it using the CSS script. Okay, so now it put it back to the original size. So that didn't work. So it's always it's a testing thing. I think I'm just going to take out the pixels because I don't know that you're supposed to put in pixels. Let's try just 200. And this is the process. You have to just play with these different aspects. But the matrix is a very powerful CSS command because it affects all aspects of the image, the size, the placement, and its skewing. And so it did move it 200 pixels to the left, as you can see. So it's a very powerful because you don't have to have 6 different CSS statements to affect this one image. You simply can use one statement and change these parameters. For example, if I want that to be really small, let's say 0.2, that's going to make it really tiny. And let's see, that way I can make that logo as small as I want. So let's go back and see how it affects the logo there. So we're going to do this. And you can see now that my logo is very small. And if I want to move that over, I can change this to 800 pixels. And I don't think, you don't put the pixel after it, but if I change that, now I should be able to move that over to the left. Remember that our full screen height on this particular screen that I'm doing my presentation is 1900 pixels wide. So for me to get it to move over, 200 wouldn't move it, but you see 800 moves that over where I need to be. Now let's say, oh, I want that to be up higher though. So, okay, that's no problem. We'll take the y-axis, and again, your starting point is always 0. So if you've got to take it up on the y-axis, you're going to have to use a negative number. If you want to push it down on the y-axis, it's going to be a positive number. The same with the xy coordinates because you're starting at its existing position. So to move it up, I'm going to have to do minus 400. And that will move it up to the top by 400 because we're moving it in the xy. Think of it as like an Etch-a-Sketch. I don't know if you know what those are. Remember those Etch-a-Sketches where you turn the two knobs and it kind of makes the little lines? Well, the center portion of that screen is 0. So if you move it to the left or up, it's got to be a negative number. If you move it to the right or down, it has to be a positive number. So let's see what this does when we do that. Now this, I'm anticipating that this level here should move up to somewhere up here. Haha, we learned something interesting. If we make that number too big, it will totally go off the screen. So I made the number too big. So let's cut back to, let's do half of that. Let's say 200. Great, some guy's pounding his stereo out there. Love it. Okay, so let's see what that does. That should bring it down. Now this is how you can manually... It's the same guy. Huh. The guy drives by every day. Okay, you see it moved it up. The only problem with using CSS Script with this is now we've probably affected our responsiveness of this theme because we've used CSS Scripting to change the attributes of the logo. So that's why it's much more preferable to do the logo changes as much as you can with the built-in theme functions rather than using CSS Scripting. And in this case, for example, in the case of Jacobson and Richards, you can center the logo simply by using the built-in theme changes and without using CSS Scripting. But this, I'm just showing you how to do this if you have to move a logo somewhere that the program doesn't want to put it. Okay, so that's how we do the logo. Now now we're going to look at, let's look at the menu here. Menu's kind of small. Let's see if we can't do some manipulation with CSS with the menu. First off, we have to find out what is our CSS classes. Well, I can highlight or I can click on one of the aspects like before and do inspect, and it will show me the CSS listings for the menu items. For example, if you come up here, you see here that the LI for that is, which as I told you, the LI is each individual word in the menu. So if the menu has About Us, Home, or Contact Us, each of those is going to have an item number. For example, this particular one is Testimonials. And we follow it up and we find out that it's the item number 31. So you can actually focus in with an LI command, and you can actually even focus in further And using that class statement, you can actually move that particular word however you want. This is mostly only used for moving objects left and right, up and down on the XY axis. I wouldn't use this to try to resize words or anything, because it won't do that. So let's move up. Here we see that the ID is menu, main menu. Let's go up further and see if I can find something. Because now we're into the header. There's our Q logo. So here is our class statement for the menu. Now what they do is they separate this. There's a number of different terms that they use. Main underscore menu, drop underscore down, center, so forth. So the class statement to move the menu items back and forth would be main underscore menu. And then you would also include the LI descriptor here. So if you want to do the words, you have to go even further, and you have to use the A descriptor, which indicates letters. So we're going to go through that now. So I know my class, though, is main underscore menu. That's the class I'm looking for. So I'm going to close that. Come back here, and let's go here to do another CSS statement. We're going to do dot main underscore menu. And we're going to start with the global and not drill down too much. First, let's see if we can move the position of the main menu. Here again, you could use your transform statement that you've used here. Let me show you what happens when we do that. I can actually just copy this and just paste it here, replacing my values again with 0 to just reset things. I'm just going to do this. It's easier. So I will just reset it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now I've reset it. So now if I want to transform my menu size, I can do it globally by changing this to, say, a 3. Now that's 3 times larger. What I've done is basically increased it by 3 times. Count over. You don't want to skew the numbers. So remember, these next 2 are for skewing it back and forth and side to side. So we'll use the 4th digit, and we'll make that 3 as well. You could make it 4 or something else and have it be different, but it would look weird. So let's just do that for now, and let's see if we can get our menu to increase by doing this. If not, we might have to try something else. There we go. Wow, look at that. So yes, indeed, it did increase the scale and size of our menu items. You'll notice that it kept everything in proportion, though. So it may be that we don't want that much space in between our menu items. But you can see, as a general rule, that would be a good way to increase the size of the menu. But we don't want to do that. So let's just put it at 1.5. I don't want it that big, but I would like it slightly bigger. So we're just going to use 1.5 because that's just going to will just basically increase it a little bit. And let's see what that does. So looking at the menu, notice how big our header is. That's because it had to accommodate the bigger. It increased the size of our header, which we'll have to do with. We can actually use increasing the size of the header. You can actually use the built-in functions with the theme to change that rather than using CSS. Don't always resort to CSS statements to change everything, because you can be overriding some very valuable in-theme operations first. So always look. The order should be first check in-theme functions to make sure they don't have something to let you do it in theme. And then if they don't, then you can use the CSS statements to to correct that. You can see it made it bigger. Okay, I want to change the color of the menu though, but I'm not going to be able to do it here, so I'm going to have to actually change the letters themselves. To do that, we put in the command main _ menu space, and then we're going to put an A because that's going to be for characters. And let's put our little bracket here. And let's put our bracket again. And now we can enter some CSS scripting to affect the letters themselves. Let's make the color, for example, red. Let's make the font family impact. Get back here and put a colon, impact, semicolon. And let's just see what those two things do. Those should give us a different color and a different font for our menu. So we'll save that and then come here. Always save it because you don't want to lose your things. And let's just refresh that and see what happens to our menu down here. Okay, well, we can see that, yes, the font family worked, but it doesn't look like my color worked on it. And so sometimes let's just take let's take this and just copy it here to the main menu to see if it might be where I have to do it. Sometimes you have to play with these because find out exactly which statement is going to affect what you want to do. So if I do that and then save it and then check it again, so it's still not affecting it. That tells me that the program is being stubborn. So what I can do is I can try to force it to do that. Let's put in this statement. This statement forces the program to do what you want. You put in an exclamation point, and then you type in important, IMPORTANT. That tells the program that I don't care what you want to do, you're going to do it. So let's hit save. And now putting it important, we'll see if that makes the change. Yes. So now, using that important statement, it is forced the program to change those menu items to the red color that we told it to do. Even though it didn't want to, we forced it to because we are the masters. So, because it forced it to. Now we say, well, so that's basically how you manipulate those. And the process is the same for every element that you want to process through custom CSS. You have a series of statements. This is just an entry level. We'll get into more detail in another lesson. But basically your statements are here, and each statement must be preceded by a valid class statement. And if you don't know it, you have to find out what it is. And sometimes when you're looking for it, you have to try multiple class statements until it changes the item that you want to have changed. Just like with my menu, I tried two different things. I'm going to get rid of that, by the way, because it wasn't necessary. But I have to try a number of different options to see what will finally change it. And I finally realized that I have to use the important statement. That's the last resort, but that's the only way I could get that to change. So I can change that from red. Now I can also change it to green. Oh, we don't use capitals in, sorry, green. And I have to put back in my exclamation point, save it, and now I can make now my text is going to be green. See? So that's basically some CS statements of how to move things. What it might be best if you're having a problem, we can just go through individual CSS things that you need help with. There are some even, now when we use the transform matrix, we're going to have to add other statements with this to accommodate other browsers. For example, Mozilla Foxfire, Internet Explorer, Apple's crappy thing, Safari, whatever it is. Each of those are going to take a different statement because we might have to make adjustments for each of those different browsers so that it will look correct. And I'll go through that in another lesson. I just wanted to go over the basics of doing the CSS scripting because you wanted to see how to move the logos now and moving the main menu. Sometimes the reason I use this main menu transform a lot is because sometimes I will want the main menu to be in this, just hovering over the title area. The only way to do that is to force that literally through CSS statements to go down. Let me show you an example of that. For example, I have a client, onecarcare.com, and he was very specific that he wanted his menu to have a backdrop that looked a certain way. And that backdrop he wanted was this right here. So I actually designed that picture in Photoshop. And the problem is you can't put it in the header because the header only allows one background image, and I already had a background image. So I had to use the title area and use this as a background in the title area. And I had to force the menu down here so that it hovered over the title area. So it appeared like it's here in that area. Problem with that is for responsiveness purposes and for other search engine or other browsers, now I have to make individual statements for each screen size and responsiveness, and I have to manually adjust these for every single screen size. If we have to do that, we're going to charge the client for that because that is not cheap, and that's a custom feature that we're happy to do, but it takes time and effort to do, and it's outside the realm of a standard website. So I did it for this customer, and the other aspect, as you can see, is that when you have drop-down menus, which he doesn't have any, so you have to adjust the drop-down menu as well to either go down or up so it fits as well. So there's a lot of customization that needs to go in. It can all be done through CSS scripting, which is my preferable way to do it. You can hard code it through HTML, but then you totally bypass any responsiveness, and then that becomes a nightmare. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how to do some basic moving of items within the header. And I'm going to end there, and let me know if the next item we need to talk about. So hopefully this was helpful. Have a good day.